All right, 7:06. We are coming to you, but first, so hang on tight, 7:06. But first, all the way from Vancouver, Russell Scott. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm great, Eric. Thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on.
So just to what D-Style was saying there, the better numbers, but you could argue, well, yeah, they'll break all these numbers August 26th. But what if they had done it on Cinco de Mayo weekend? What if they had done it on a more classic part of the calendar? Then they probably would have achieved higher numbers, right? So you don't have that direct comparison.
I would think. I mean, what do you think, Beeb? What do you think about that? If they did this on September 16th or May 5th or whatever, what do you think? Do you think the fight's bigger?
The only reason why I just respectfully disagree with Russell is because generally there's always been a Hispanic fighter as the opponent. That's why they would put it on those days. You don't have that here. And also, this is just a different type of fight where I don't even think a lot of Hispanics are going to buy this. I don't think that's going to be the targeted audience for this fight. And I don't think that's going to be the predominant audience for this fight. I think the UFC demographic.
Cinco de Mayo has to be the weekend, but like October or November, where we've seen a lot of big fights.
Yeah, but August is summertime. This is a time where people really are on vacation and they're not spending a lot of money. So for this to be so successful, given that, I think that speaks volumes as well. But again, look who the two fighters are.
1 million pay-per-view numbers, right?
I think this is going to do 5 million easy.
Remember, a lot of Pacquiao's fights when he was in his prime was like April, October, November.
Yeah.
I think even though I'm against this fight and I'm not going to buy it, I think you could have this fight any time of the year and it would shatter all pay-per-view records, all gate records and what have you, just because of the way these two guys sell their fight.
Russell, how much is this pay-per-view in Canada?
Date of the calendar. What's that, Eric?
This is Beef. How much is this fight going to cost in Canada on pay-per-view?
Hey, Beep. Probably 125 HD.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. And, not a lot of places show boxing because boxing just isn't that popular up here. UFC isn't really all that popular up here. People still generally watch hockey. So, there's not like a bar that I can just walk to and watch it. I got to pay for it if I want to see it or watch it on Periscope or.
Wow, I didn't realize that. $125, man.
Yeah, well,
that's steep.
No, he's right. Eric, I used to live in Canada, and when I lived in Canada, it was very difficult to find fights. If you didn't pay for them, you didn't watch them.
Wow.
But I want to make a point here. So the fight itself, the results, Mayweather versus McGregor. I think we can all agree that unless Mayweather knocks him out, it's a win for McGregor.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Right? Now let's look at it this way. What's an MMA round? 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
That's correct. It's 5 minutes, 5 rounds.
Right. So that's 25 minutes. A championship boxing match is 36. That's an additional 11 minutes. Are you telling me you're going to go with the best fighter of all time, potentially, possibly, another 11 minutes and not hit the canvas? That in itself is why he won't make it. I don't see McGregor going past round 8, surely by exhaustion.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with it. I don't think, but I don't think exhaustion really plays a part in it, man. I think Mayweather's power is going to play the part in it. And I know people are laughing now, but
have you ever boxed? Have you ever boxed, Eric?
Yeah. And when
you get hit, it doesn't hurt, right? When you get hit, it doesn't hurt. It makes you lose energy though.
When you get hit. Yeah, absolutely. You do lose energy. I mean, it depends on where you get hit, whether it hurts or not, but Yeah, I mean, because he can clip him, but Mayweather's got power. That's what a lot of people don't realize. And I mean, he does have power, and it's a different animal. If he didn't have power, people would just run right through him. You know what I mean? And that's not happening.
I keep this in mind, Eric. Throughout Mayweather's career, he's had trouble with his hands. That's why he doesn't go for a lot of knockouts.
Yeah, he's got more power than people give him respect for. All you have to do is look at Diego Corrales. He put him down 5 times, and he could have put him down several more had he been given the opportunity and enough rounds to do so.
Yeah, I agree.
The Mayweather of young was knocking people out left, right, and center. Just, you know, when you're getting tagged that many times, that fast, that accurately, you're going to go down.
Yeah, and even if his punch output isn't what it used to be, which we suspect it won't be, you know, listen, he still carries pop. He still knows how to throw punches correctly, and it's a difference. It's like D-Style was referencing. He said it's different when you get hit with a jab from a professional boxer, from somebody who knows how to throw a punch versus an MMA guy. It's just different, and I don't care how unorthodox he is. It's a different animal. You know, he's going to be in there with a different animal.
But he doesn't have that one punch knockout power. It's not one punch knockout power, right?
Who's this, Floyd?
So you're saying McGregor's going down a culmination.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, a combination. You know what? And with 8-ounce gloves, though, I mean, man, I tell you what. I mean, and if Mayweather hits you flush, I think he does have one punch power. I think he does. I think he can get him out of there. I really do.
What do you think, Beeb?
You know, in the beginning, I thought Mayweather would definitely stop him, but now I know he's going to win, but I just don't know how. I'm not 100% sure he's going to knock him out because of the hand problems, because he's always taken the safety first approach. And will it change in this fight? Because I thought he was going to knock out Pacquiao. So I don't want to pick him by knockout and get roped in again. But you made a great point, and because the other side of it is McGregor's stamina. And if you watch Mayweather training now, you know, this may not mean much, but watch him training now, going through the drills, he's throwing an awful lot of body punches, So I think that's going to be part of the plan here. And, you know, these MMA guys, the UFC guys, when they get up close, their first line of defense is the elbows and the knees. They're not really throwing body punches. And so when they're defending against body punches, they're grabbing and, they're pulling you in close and they're allowed to hold you there. So what's going to happen, if, the scenario happens where Mayweather gets up close in his chest, he starts digging into that body, really grab him by the head and pull him down. He's got to try to freeze the action. But all the while he's trying to freeze the action, he's still going to catch some shots. So I think I'm leaning on the side of the stoppage when I factor in everything. But I'm also concerned that he may just hurt his hand and then he won't be able to punch effectively. And also, he's not a guy, as everyone knows, that brings a fast tempo to the fight. He's going to fight a slow-paced fight. Will that be enough? So it's kind of interesting. But again, Malignaggi made a great point. When he knows he can hurt you, or he knows he can, put you where he wants to put you, he will try to start walking you down. So I'm going to have to lean towards the stoppage if I'm going to, factor in everything in terms of percentages. I'm going to go with the stoppage. Mayweather.
It's funny because when I talk to people about betting it, they go, okay, you got to bet Mayweather to win, and then maybe hedge your play with McGregor knockout.
Yeah, I can't see
Mayweather KO is the best play here. Value.
It has to be. Sure. It has to be. Yeah. It's probably the most probable.
I don't see it going the distance. I can't see it any other way. I mean, I really,
McGregor has a stamina problem as it is in the MMA. How can he go an extra 11 minutes? That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know what nobody's talking about here?
I don't know how many hours in the gym it takes to fight another minute, but it's a lot.
Yeah. You know what nobody's talking about? And then is that when McGregor fought Nate Diaz, the first Nate Diaz fight, when he got choked out, he was getting outboxed. Nate Diaz was getting the better on his feet. McGregor went for the takedown because he was getting beat on his feet.
That's a good point.
He was getting outboxed by Nate Diaz, who's a pretty good boxer. who trains, he's sparred Andre Ward. Both him and Nick has sparred Andre Ward. Andre Ward speaks very highly of those two. He was being outboxed by Nate Diaz. He went for the takedown. And Nate Diaz is like a wizard on the ground. So he got choked out. But he was being outboxed. Now, has he come along since then? Of course he has. But listen, if you're being outboxed by Nate Diaz, what do you think you're going to do against Mayweather when it's just hands? What do you think you're going to do?
Then what about this? But then what about this situation with Paulie? Paulie works for Showtime, as you know. And the idea that it could be a work is there's $1 billion in this. It could be a work to sell the fight, to sell the idea that McGregor actually has some skill.
I don't know. I don't, listen, man, I don't know what to make of the Paulie situation. Everything is pointing to Paulie. I mean, like I said,
that's what throws the wrench in the works, right?
It really does.
Everything made sense until that.
Yeah. I mean, it does.
Two other quick points too, because a lot of times you can watch a guy train, and in the gym, it's totally different. We hear that being said all the time, because under the lights, the adrenaline is flowing. But also, too, when you're put in a situation where you're uncomfortable, then your adrenaline is working overtime. And obviously, that's going to play a factor in the fatigue, because he's going to be put in situations that he's never been put in before. And I don't think any amount of sparring against Paulie Malignaggi or some of these other guys he's been working with will prepare him for what Mayweather does. Because Mayweather can frustrate you. And when he's frustrating you, you're sitting there saying to yourself, what am I going to do here? And then panic sets in. And then when panic sets in, the fight or flight kicks in. And then that's where that adrenaline, as I said, works overtime. So that's going to play into the fatigue factor as well. Definitely, without question.
The other thing is that McGregor's corner is an MMA corner. It's not a boxing corner. And he didn't switch corners for this fight.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? If all these sparring leaks, the whole thing with Van Heerden and obviously with Paulie Malignaggi most recently, my question is, how come they're not, like when he's fighting in MMA, right? Why aren't they leaking footage of him sparring guys in MMA? So obviously this is a ploy as a boxer, because they don't have to do these things.
MMA, yeah,
they don't have to do this when he's fighting MMA, and no other MMA fighter, when they're in a big fight, you very rarely ever see sparring footage being leaked. I don't think it's ever happened. Correct me if I'm wrong.
In fairness, though, how much MMA do you watch? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I've been buying the last couple of pay-per-views,
what I'm saying is, how much do you follow in the sense that you're going to go to YouTube? And
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I actually downloaded the UFC app on my devices, and I'm starting to get into it a little bit now. But you're right. Obviously, I don't follow it as closely as boxing. There's no way I'm going to admit that. I can't. But this just isn't done. This just isn't done in the UFC.
This brings
go ahead.
Point, guys. Since this is going to be so financially successful, are we going to see other guys from MMA try to do what Conor McGregor does here?
I don't think anyone else can do it like this and bring this amount of attention to to an event.
No,
it depends upon the results of the fight.
Correct. That's correct.
It's completely contingent on how well McGregor does. That's the answer to that.
100%.
And here's another question. What if McGregor wins 4 rounds and maybe he finishes strong at the end of each round, tries to steal those rounds. And a lot of MMA fans, casuals, they'll get sucked into that. And then Mayweather wins and they clamor for the rematch.
Oh man, if they clamor, if it's close enough, if it's close enough to have a rematch in that kind of sense where it wasn't decisive enough, can you imagine the money in that rematch? It's inhuman.
Here we're talking about the first one, but could you realize we could be talking about a second one?
The Powerball,
another $1 billion.
Yeah, why not? Powerball is at 650 right now, 650 million in the United States. That's like Floyd Mayweather money. I mean, it's just like would dwarf that. I mean, that would just dwarf.
Okay,
that.
So Floyd Mayweather is the smartest businessman in boxing, right?
Yep.
What if he just decides to take rounds 3, 6, 7, 8, and 10 off?
I don't think he does it
just for that very purpose.
I don't know. I don't
really.
Yeah, I don't think so,
man.
I think he's too competitive.
They're going to score the fight for McGregor.
I think he's just too competitive.
I think Mayweather's got this locked down in lots of different ways.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, if his handlers have talked to him about that. Like, if LRB had said, "Hey, can you imagine if we have a rematch of this fight? How much money we're making now? If we get a rematch, how much?" That's got to come up, right? It has to.
I just thought of it. They thought of it 6 months ago. Right?
Oh, for sure. It's crazy, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Right. So I mean, that's just something. Now, then why did Pacquiao suck? That kind of kills that argument. So
yeah, that's true.
Do something like that, maybe he would have done it then.
Yeah.
Well, here's another question.
Hey, one last.
Sure.
Yeah.
If Pacquiao beats Jeff Horn and Mayweather wins this fight as we expect, could there be a Pacquiao too?
No, I don't think so. The money's
is
not
that impossible?
Yeah, it's impossible. The money's not there for it.
No, I think Crawford gets that fight.
I don't think Crawford gets that fight either way. I think if Horn wins, Crawford gets that fight. But if Pacquiao wins, I don't think they let Pacquiao. I don't think Roach lets Pacquiao fight that fight.
I don't even want to see that fight.
No.
He would massacre Pacquiao.
Oh, he's going to destroy Pacquiao. After
we don't want to see it.
Yeah.
He's a savant. Terrence Crawford is a savant. That's they come around every once in a while.
So good.
What he did last night was a masterpiece.
Insane.
Roy Jones. You could name others. They're very rare and special people. He's definitely on that pound for pound top 5. I don't know what else put there. Loma, Rigo, Gonzalez. Yeah. I want to say one last thing, Eric. You talked about Anthony Joshua being on the pound for pound. Now it kind of reiterates what the last guy said, how the pound for pound list was created for Sugar Ray Robinson. I remember when Jim Lampley was going on back when Lennox Lewis was champion. And he says, Lennox Lewis is favored against any man in the world. And that really hit home with me. Holy smokes, Lennox Lewis is the toughest fighter in the world. He would be favored against anybody.
Yeah.
But it's totally, it's apples and oranges. You can't put Anthony Joshua there. You could always put a heavyweight there, and he would be the best.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, though. As a heavyweight fighter, I mean, who beats Anthony Joshua? You could argue maybe other people in the heavyweight division, but absolutely nobody else even comes close. And just like to your point with Lennox Lewis, you put him there, nobody beats that guy in his prime. Nobody in the world. That's it. I mean, end of story. I mean, case closed.
Roy Jones would have had a shot. Because of his athleticism, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think but I think Lennox was just too big. I think even with his athleticism and everything like that, and you take Roy's chin out of it because we didn't know about his chin at the time, and the weight could have had a lot to do with that too. He went up to heavyweight, came all the way back down.
Emmanuel Stewart in Lennox Lewis's corner, Emmanuel would come up with such a game plan that Roy Jones wouldn't know what to do.
Just that jab alone. I mean, just a jab alone would have done it. So
what is that? Emmanuel Stewart versus Virgil Hunter then?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's no contest.
Yeah. Well, we also like to think of Emmanuel Stewart in positive ways since he's passed, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
90 seconds.
Chat with you guys. I know you got another caller waiting.
Absolutely.
Love to do it again. I guess we're all going to watch the fight then, except for Robbie.
Robbie's totally watching the fight.
Robbie bought it already. I already called DirecTV.
I don't know how many more times I got to say.
even if you can find it for free, suspiciously somewhere.
Yeah, he's watching it.
Hey,
Russell, I offered to pay for it for him. He still won't watch it.
I'm watching it.
60 seconds.
Hey,
I suspect there'll be a miracle on 34th Street, wherever you live there. Thanks so much, guys.
Well, wait a minute. Before you go, where can we find you? Where can we find? Talk about your show, man.
Don't worry about my show. Don't worry about my show, guys. Just, I think you guys run one of the best boxing shows on YouTube, Beating the Odds with B, Ringside Reporter. To the audience, focus on that. You guys are doing great.
Oh,
thank you so much
sir.
for your time.
Thank you so much. Oh, that was great, man. Great call.
Well, if he's got a show, it deserves to be plugged. Come on.
That's right.